Mechanics of Reddit. Where the biggest signs a shop is a bad choice, such as being scammed or hustled into fixing things that don't really need fixed or bad mechanics. Story 1, if they tell you something needs fixed or replaced, ask them to show you one. A reputable shop will have no problem showing you the issue. 2, a good mechanic will be able to explain in relatable terms why it's a problem. Any shop that can't sit and explain what's wrong and why to fix it is either full of or incompetent. Also, you are legally allowed to ask for old broken parts back. Had your brake pads replaced, you can ask for the old ones. The only thing might be that a lot of parts have a core charge, so asking to keep the parts might raise the cost of your service. Edit a core charge is sort of like a deposit. For example, you buy a starter motor, it's 100 and has a 10 core charge. If you bring back the old starter motor, then the store will refund you 10. Then the store sends your old motor to the manufacturer so they can rebuild it or recycle some parts. Sort of like 5-cent deposits on aluminum cans in some states. Story 2, I was driving my wife's Oldsmobile Alero, and it just died. I'm not overly mechanically inclined, but I'm able to at least check the basics, and I couldn't get it going again. So we got it towed to dealership. They told us that the fuel pump was gone, was going to cost $600. Wife's coworker told us about a backyard mechanic who she used extensively for her vehicles. Called him up. He was a former dealership mechanic who was disgusted with his employer and decided to go out on his own. Okay, good start. I liked the guy already without even meeting him, had the car towed out to him. Probably 30 minutes later, he called me in a completely incoherent rage. Once he calmed down, he proceeded to tell us the 600 fuel pump we needed was in fact a 25 fuel filter. He basically told us that either the mechanic working on our car was completely inept, or we were likely going to be replacing the fuel pump on the mechanic's buddy's car. He called the dealership and tore them a new one for us. They ended up refunding both towing fees and the diagnostics fees we paid. We promptly switched over to the new mechanic and used him exclusively until we moved away from the area. He always got a Christmas bonus from us and many other customers. I'd say he was better stocked than most of the bars were. Good, honest mechanics are incredibly hard to find. Find them, hold on to them, treat them nice, they save you hundreds if not thousands of dollars. Story 3, any shop that refuses to show you the part or issue on the car when they recommend doing some type of maintenance. Likewise, shops that advertise basic work for low prices, oil changes for 20, etc., plus a 100-point inspection. All they want is to get you in and upsell that 20 oil change into a 500 brake job. Story 4, take a picture of your air filter. Some unscrupulous Jiffy Lube employees will bring in a nasty air filter and claim it's yours, and that you need to spend some 5x markup for a new one. Story 5, get multiple quotes. Make sure the diagnosis is correct. I replaced an O2 sensor for a friend. 25 Pep Boys told her she needed a new catalytic converter. 1,200 rat bastards. Word of mouth is still critical on this subject. When you find an honest wrench, you tell other people about that individual. Nearly every car has an enthusiast blog, even models you think wouldn't. If you register free and spend a little time there, you'll find not only mechanics who give excellent advice, but others like yourself who have corrected problems, posted photos, and elaborated on what didn't work or was a misdiagnosis. The weak points of a car are unearthed on these free blogs, and if you navigate them carefully, you can glean a wealth of information. Lastly, these enthusiasts will tell you who is honest where you live and share their experiences in repair pursuits. Story 6, stay away from national chains. Small independent shops have no advertising, just their reputation. Talk to friends and relatives to find who they trust and have a relationship with. Story 7, I think a strong start for most people is understanding the maintenance that needs to be done at each mileage interval, as well as learning how to diagnose issues. Things like this one, know how to tell if you have adequate tread on tires. 2, learn how to tell if you have pad life left. Learn what bad brakes sound like they chirp when you brake. 3, learn how to replace your air filter. It costs 10 and is usually in a plastic box easily accessible under the hood. For other things, learn to understand what sounds mean. Clicking when turning, probably a CV shaft. Grinding while driving and wobbly tires when you get the car jacked up. Well, bearing, if you understand what the issue is, you can appreciate what the cost should be as well. Edit at a minimum. I would know how to do the following on your own car. 1, jack up your car and replace your tire with a spare. Also, pump up your spare from time to time. Everyone's spare tire is flat because no one worries about it until you need it. 2, check and know how to top off things like coolant, oil, power steering fluid. For coolant, use either 50-50 mix or if you have straight coolant, add equal parts distilled water when topping off. 3, know how to jump a car. 4, know how to remove your battery and install a new battery. Say your battery completely dies and you can't jump the car. This way you can pop your battery out, go get a new one with a friend, and come back and install it yourself. I recommend investing in a jumper box that has a tire pump built in. Probably costs about 50, but you'll never have to worry about low tire pressure or a dead battery on a cold morning again. Costco and Walmart sell good ones, as does Amazon. Story 8, I have more of a story. I was a 17-year-old girl at the time, dropped my car off to be diagnosed, being told we will call you in an hour, as soon as we know what the problem is so we can go from there. Hours passed by. So I called and asked what was up. Yeah, we figured out the issue and started working on it. We're almost done now, and we will let you know when to come pick it up. Had no choice but to pay the $600 because they fixed my car without even asking me to do so. The best part, it wasn't even fixed. Whatever they fixed was not the issue. Also had a tire shop try and sell me one used tire for $90. I asked them if they thought I was stupid and left. Now, I always take my father with me if it involves anything car-related. Story 9, not a mechanic, but in my area, there are places that have about 100 reviews, and they're all 5-star. Surprise, surprise. I go there for transmission work, and my car starts leaking oil the next day. I go in, and they basically say they don't have time. I leave a 2-star review. They threaten me in the review, and I get a voicemail asking for them to call back. Makes me believe if anyone else left a low rating, they'd get bullied into removing it. Story 10, I was an adjuster for a major insurance company and handle mechanical and body damages. I can actually write for this for body repairs. If you get into an accident, look for these things. There are a list of things people need to watch out for when they go to find a body shop. First, what attracts you to this body shop? If it was a commercial, you need to leave. Body shops worth a do not advertise themselves because the good ones are so swamped they can literally turn away one of 3 people who walk in the door and still be too busy. Besides, they should be spending most of their money on tools and upgrades. Did you read the reviews? This baffles me that people will look up reviews for a gyro's restaurant they'll spend $15 at, but not a shop that will be doing $6,000 repairs on their car. Really, look at the reviews. If there are dozens of bad ones, go away. If a body shop says they can get you in today, that's typically a bad sign. If an estimate is not written yet, the car will sit for a few days before somebody gets to it. You should expect to wait for good repairs, just like you would expect to make reservations at a nice restaurant. If they advertise that they fight the big, bad insurance companies, use only OEM parts, or anything that pits you against your insurance company, that means your shop is not on good terms with insurance companies who effectively subsidize most of the collision repair industry because the owners know you will come to them because you're on their side, and they hate those damned insurance companies too, just like me. In reality, your repairs will stall constantly for additional repair costs, of which will occur 90% of the time. So every time a new part needs to be ordered, the shop will move your car to the back while they fight, which means they call once a day to discuss the merits of the repairs or the parts used in the repairs, instead of ordering them and getting it done like a normal shop typically will. Your 1-week bumper job could end up taking 65 days. I have actually seen this happen, and then the shop decides they want $70 a day in storage. If they pay your deductible or your rental, guess what? Somebody has to pay that, and typically it isn't going to be shop doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. It's usually the technician who is now on a race against time to get the work done faster. Use your instincts. If you get a bad vibe, walk away. Nobody makes you go to shop, not the insurance company, not the shop. You make a repair decision. Now, you may be asked to go to shop by the insurance company because they have a rep there, and you should do that just to get an estimate in their system. Story 11, if they're using fear in any way, telling you something must be fixed right now, or it could be dangerous. They might be right, especially if it's about your brakes, but if they're being alarmist about it, that would be a red flag. Plus, in general, trying to get you to commit right now without giving the chance to get another estimate or opinion. Take a look at the shop. If it's a mess, disorganized, parts and tools left laying around, the outside is not upkept at all, a lot of dead cars sitting outside, and a less than professional appearance, both the facility and the people, that could be a red flag also. Story 12, I go to a local garage, independently run. And speaking as a woman, part of the reason I go there is that they just speak to me as a person with a car. No over-explaining. I don't get charged any more or less than men do. They're just a lot more interested in my car than they are in me, which is how it should be. The other thing I appreciate is that if they think your car is past all help, they'll tell you so. They could have easily charged me hundreds in labor to try and track down a wiring fault in my Clio, but instead told me that it had been fixed so much and so haphazardly in the past, it was pretty much a lost cause. And they'd offer me a half-price service on whatever cheap piece if I brought it next time. Story 13, know your car. Before taking it in for anything, check for stains under it. Put up on a jack and run a rag over your axles. A common hustle is to put a little but of power steering fluid or oil on your axles until you have a leak. I check all of my fluids before taking my car in for anything. One shop, I took my car to brought me into the shop where my car was up on the lift and show me the place where my power steering fluid was leaking, then show me the reservoir that was almost empty. Odd. 30 minutes ago, it was full from the last time I filled it even. Do you honestly expect me to believe that on the way over here, I lost all of my power steering fluid? Hard no, I never went back. Alternatively, if you find a place that's honest, stay with them. My car was actually leaking oil once. Took it to a place expecting a hefty repair. Nope, the drain plug was stripped $5. Didn't even charge me anything for labor or to look at it. They got all of my business until I moved away. Story 14, a shop by my house is 2 lifts in the guy's garage. No alignment tools, and he doesn't take cards or checks. Not even a money order, only cash. He doesn't give invoices or work orders, and he sells used tires as new. The tire he sold me lasted 38 miles. Littaker's garage in Salisbury, North Carolina. Not afraid to call out his bullshit. Story 15, not a mechanic. But look at your car. If a mechanic said something needs to be fixed, a mechanic told me my serpentine belts were horrifically cracked and would snap soon, and that I had an oil leak. They show me pictures of what they claimed was my car. My husband was like, no. Maybe you should look before you do anything. So we looked. My belts looked practically brand new. The belts they show me a picture of were absolutely not mine. There was no oil leak, but they did dump oil on my engine and claim it was a leak. Story 16, first of all, you shouldn't be looking for a shop. Look for a technician. You could have completely different experiences at a shop. Just because you got a different tech, this can be deceiving because you see the same faces up front. The service advisor's recommendations come from the tech. Most of the time, the service advisor doesn't even look at the car. If you have a good experience at a shop, ask for the tech's name. Go back for another service and request he works on the car. Ask to meet him or get contact info. Ideally, do this with small repairs. Then when a big one hits, you have a guy. If he switches shops, go with him. That's the ideal scenario in my mind. Story 17, they want to take you to show you the issue. They can't explain how they came to the conclusion of the fault. They can't tell you what tests they did if they tested anything. They are unable to show you any data to back up their claims, etc. For example, someone I know was having an overheating issue. The mechanic said it was definitely going to be a coolant temp sensor, cooling system flush, possibly a water pump, etc. They did not pressure test the system. They didn't have any scan tool data, etc. The fix coolant reservoir cap, 15-part. Another was having issues with power windows. Mechanic quoted 4 new regulators and motors. I tore the door panels off and looked at the switch. All it needed was some grease on the regulator and some WD-40 and a bit of plastic removed and a bit of contact cleaner on the switch. So many shops or mechanics will try and sell full-on jobs for minor fixes, partially because some shops want that upsell and some require it. And also, if you work flat rate, some people really think their need for that money is more important and are willing to charge you for that emissions test and fix for your check engine light, when what you needed was a replacement gas cap because the rubber O-ring went out. When you take it in to be checked and they tell you what they think it is, ask to see what made them think that. If they want, show you, and they can't tell you what makes them think it is said thing. Be wary. You don't have to be a master technician to understand what the mechanic is saying, but if you're having a starting issue and they aren't testing the battery, starter relay, and starter itself, then they're just part swapping. If they tested the battery or the alternator, they should have a sheet. If you're getting a brake job done and they're pushing for flush, ask to see the fluid or if they tested the fluid. If they did test it, they should have a strips or tester. If they push for rotors, ask for the measurements. And if they cut their own rotors, and if they do rotor matching. A good and honest mechanic will have no issues showing you what they found or answer your questions. If you're willing to take the time to show interest in your vehicle, then you can feel more justified in your bill. But do be careful. If you seem like one of the customers who questions everything because they automatically think the mechanic is trying to screw you, you'll have a less than enjoyable experience. Like any other profession, if you're polite to the mechanic, a lot of them will be nice and as helpful as possible to you. Understanding the basics of how your vehicle works will help you a lot, and keeping up on maintenance will help you in the long run. And if possible, learn what is being put on your car. Also, remember that unless your mechanic works for themselves, they don't make the rate for labor. All we can do is try and give you the best work for the time. And remember the mechanic's labor triangle. If it's done fast and right, it won't be cheap. If it's done fast and cheap, it won't be right. If it's done cheap and right, it won't be fast. Story 18 worked at a Dodge dealer and a Toyota dealer. Double check your air filters. They may still be cleaned even if they're marked as dirty. $30 for an air filter is ridiculous. Also mark your tires when asking for a rotation. Some techs get lazy and ignore the rotation if the tire tread is even on all tires. Don't pay for something they didn't do. Story 19, I like the Ford franchise near me, as I know a couple of people who work there. There are actually 2 nearer, but after a bad experience with one, they actually knocked a screwdriver through my exhaust to make it. So I needed a new one for MOT. My buddies actually showed me where they damaged it. So I haven't been there since. The one I use is pretty good. I know I pay more than Indie Garage, but my buddies know me and I like things in good order. I once used a Mercedes franchise when my C-Series windscreen wipers developed a fault. As I worked right near there, I asked them to take a look. I assumed it was a fuse or something similar, as they wouldn't do anything but intermittent. But they did work like that. They called me up wanting $1,100 for a whole new wiper mechanism and switch assembly. I just said, no way, you'll just go pick it up. I arrived to find windscreen wipers and the dashboard out and in various pieces. It was undrivable. The shop manager said that we don't put defective parts back in. After a lot of bad noise, calls to Mercedes, they basically told me to off. I ended up having to pay out what they wanted despite the wipers basically working. I understand women get frustrated over not trusting garages, but I can assure you us guys get the same treatment. Sometimes you don't really have an option but to take a risk, but what I have learned is that if you don't get your car booked and straight away, if you have to wait a couple of days, it means they're in demand. If in using them they're straight up with you and what's up, then it's good too. My old garage that I used was like that. Sadly, the owner retired after his son, right-hand man, passed away, but they were constantly busy. The state of the place was somewhere in the middle, which is also good. If there's everywhere forever in a day, that's a bad sign. If it's all squeaky clean and not a foot wrong, that's bad too. It means they care more about the fake plastic sheen. Mechanics are usually completely inexperienced or overstressed or badly paid. Story 20 different kind of mechanic your bicycles. The best suggestions in here so far are 1. Ask for service you're sure you don't need, and see if the mechanic agrees with you. If they do, be wary. 2. Ask for explanations of what is wrong and why it broke and how the fix will be performed. If the mechanic can't explain the procedure, parts, and cost up front, be wary. 3. Have maintenance completed regularly. I'm not sure if it's the same for cars, but for bicycles there are parts that last a long time and parts that wear quickly. Oftentimes, foregoing maintenance will allow these quicker wearing parts to incorrectly wear your longer-lasting parts. Regular maintenance will ensure serviceable parts stay that way for longer. If you've been having regular maintenance performed and using your equipment as intended, be wary of a full service replacement package. In the bike shop, a lot of the maintenance I do is stuff riders should know how to do anyway. Ask to watch the service being performed. Chances are good you can watch and learn and save yourself time and money in the future. Story 21. When you go to a shop for a major service, $30K, $60K, etc., and they come with an estimate with more items needs service compared to you owner's manual, you may want to get a second opinion. Shops have made their own list for servicing by combining different manufacturers' recommendations. Source had a shop for 10 years and saw some ridiculous quotes. Story 22. They talk to me. I have very little car knowledge. 6 wheels. Goes Brom. My wife is quite knowledgeable about the witchcraft under the hood. Will tell mechanics that I don't know about cars. She's the one who does. If they still insist on talking only to me, I get suspicious. If you choose to ignore the one who knows what you're talking about, you either can't listen or want to try to get one past me. And for all those screaming that a car has 4 wheels, you're forgetting the one in the boot and the steering wheel. Story 23. Not a mechanic, but relevant. I recently took my brand new car in for an oil change. It was leaking oil afterwards, so I took it back the next day. A different guy was in. They said a part unrelated to the oil change and totally nothing to do with the work done 24H earlier was broken. Red flag. So I should take it back to the dealer for replacement under warranty. Took it in. The dealer's mechanic snaked a camera through the engine and took pictures of the damage for me, so I could see what was wrong. The cylinder head was cracked. For those unfamiliar, just know that it's a 1/5 thick piece of steel. There was damage all throughout the inside. The camshaft was damaged. When I did the oil change, they had left the oil gun sticking into the hole where the oil goes in, and then turned the engine on with it still inside. So the oil gun got crunched inside my engine. The prognosis: a new engine, or my brand new car was scrap metal. I got a second opinion from my brother's mechanic to be sure, and he said the exact same thing. Turns out my local mechanic had not only caused the damage, but every person there had lied about it to my face to try and get out of taking responsibility. A letter from my lawyer to the shop owner was the only way to get my car repaired. The damage was over $5,000 in parts alone, not including labor. Until this happened, I was not aware it was possible to cause so much damage doing something as simple and routine as an oil change. That shop is now closed. The moral of the story: when a mechanic lies to you, there's a good chance the whole shop will lie to you. The attitude of a business always comes down from the top. A good mechanic will show you what's wrong if you ask, and not try to send you away. When it comes to damage, if they want, show it. They're full of... Story 24. Anytime they say you need a new anything when you go in for maintenance, it's probably a lie. Confirm it yourself. Worked at a Shell station for a week in college doing oil changes. Got one done and told the boss. He said she needed a new belt. I was like, no, she doesn't. He proceeded to walk over and cut the belt off and told me to get her a new one. Quit on the spot and told everyone I could about how bad the place was. Story 25. Ask them how often your oil needs to be changed. J Lube says 3,000, which is not true for most cars on the road. NW Oil Express asked how much I wanted as the interval on the sticker before I even had a chance to ask. Full synth 10K. 3 times less frequently than J-Lube. Try to tell me. Story 26. Utilize the internet. Check Yelp, Facebook, Google reviews, etc. The small independent shop I work at doesn't advertise much at all. Seeing lack of advertisements bring other people's answer to this question, but honestly our quality of work is fantastic, and we always bring the customer out to show them what's wrong with their car. Our reviews are great. Story 27. This is where everyone becomes a mechanic. First, you should go and get more than one opinion, but also you can't be ignorant. The price a mechanic gives you is with labor. Some people calculate their worth per hour differently. Everyone is trying to make a living and feed their families. Story 28. Very recent story. My mom was quoted $1,600 to fix her little car, and she fixed it herself with a 40-part plus pliers she bought at the dollar store. Way to go, Mom, and screw that place. Story 29. A few signs. The mechanics remember your name and past servicing done on your vehicle. Bad mechanics don't bother to remember because they don't care. Not only do local police departments get their work car serviced there, but also their personal cars. The majority of local area car parts and tire shops recommend them and tell you why. Not just a store or two. Any guy working a retail car parts shop can recommend his brother and May, but multiple stores. You may also phrase this to them as, where do you take your own vehicles? You deal with the owner more than any employee. I've found that when the owner is also the guy fixing cars, and he still takes time to deal with customers, he's got skin in the game and can't afford to be bad at what he does. This is especially true when the whole family is part of the biz. They take the time to show you what is wrong and why. Story 30. When they tell you your power steering fluid is dirty and needs to be changed, then you ask them more in-depth questions about it, and they answer them all. What color? Are they really sure? Did they check the right fluid reservoir? Can you check again, etc.? Then you ask them how that's possible. When you drive a 2014 Subaru Forester which doesn't have any power steering fluid, that's how you know. Then you leave a 1-star Google review. Story 31. I used to work at a repair shop for 5 years, and I still do part-time management for them 10 years in total. Over the years, we've had many customers come to us and say that other shops have tried to screw them over on similar things that people have posted here. Nevertheless, I do like to give my insight from the mechanics that I've worked with. Note, I'm not a mechanic. Like with most scams, if you're being pressured into getting an expensive job on your vehicle, think twice before getting it done. If the mechanics or manager on duty are pushing you into having something done on your car that wasn't explained to you in detail, and they seem to only want to get it fixed ASAP, you're most likely being scammed. It can be difficult to read people, especially when you're expected to put faith into the guys who are supposedly going to fix your ride, but just be cautious of how they behave. An honest mechanic will explain to you what the exact problem is, especially if it's an immediate safety issue and why it needs to be done. 2. Pay attention to the price of the parts and labor they're estimating your job on. A good mechanic will, at least in our shop's case, give you the receipt of the part that will be installed or replaced in your vehicle that was purchased from a parts dealer or your vehicle manufacturer, usually a dealership. Also, remember that an estimate is not the final price that you may be paying. Keep communication with the shop and ask them if there will be any update regarding how much you may be expected to pay. If they're hostile or reluctant in telling you what the change in price or work may be as they further examine and repair your car, you're most likely getting ripped off. One common scam is that a shop will give a low estimate on your car's job, say $150. A few days go by, and you end up having to pay twice or triple the amount on the day they release your car. Unless there's a situation where the mechanic on duty finds a huge safety issue besides the initial problem with your car and gives you an update on what the estimate will be should you agree to the job, you shouldn't be paying more than you have to. 3. Remember that labor, the actual work done, is part of the bill. You cannot tax labor, only parts, so make sure you're not paying extra for the tax as well, for it doesn't hurt to do your homework on your own car. Learn about your vehicle's anatomy and physiology. You don't have to go into nitty-gritty, but have a basic understanding what each part does and why it's important to have it maintained and what happens if something goes wrong with it. For example, and while not necessarily true in all cases, certain noises coming from your car could be a telltale sign of which specific part or compartment the problem is coming from. 5. It goes without saying, but poor customer service is a huge red flag for a bad shop. For our shop, and many like them that have good mechanics and management, the shop should give you updates as they examine and repair your vehicle. This is usually done by phone, sometimes text message or email, and each time they should tell you what exactly the problem is, or if they're still working on it, what they think the problem may be, and if further work is necessary. Shops that do not communicate with you or completely stonewall you even after you've tried calling them again and again or shooting them email after email are most likely under bad management. It doesn't necessarily mean they're trying to screw you over, as there are other customers' cars they need to attend to, especially if it's a small shop. However, just go with an open mind on how they're treating you and the tone they're using as they do a job on your vehicle. 6. Beware of patch-up jobs. This is probably the most common scam done, and I see it happening all the time with new customers. We'll get a customer come in to have their car examined by one of our mechanics, and after being told what the problem may be, they're told what the job will entail, much to the customer's dismay and disagreement. They'll leave our shop and go to another place, a shady place, and be told they'll immediately repair their vehicle on the same day and at a low and cheap price. They get their car seemingly repaired, but all that's being done is bandaging the problem and not actually fixing it. The customer victim ends up paying for the patch-up, and give it a few days or weeks later, their car is still suffering from the same issue and sometimes even breaks down on them as they drive it. Then they come back to our shop and complain about the issue. Patch-up jobs are exactly that. All the shop is doing is patching up the issue and not addressing the problem in the long term with a proper diagnosis and repair. Essentially, they're making a quick buck from you. If you go back and try to complain to them, they'll just say that maybe you experienced some kind of problem while you were driving your car. Sometimes they'll entirely blame it on you. For example, we had a customer who came to our shop and complained that one of his pipes in his car's exhaust system was leaking and making a loud, rumbling noise. Our mechanic told him, after briefly examining his vehicle, that he may need to get the pipe entirely replaced. The customer became irate and said that he wasn't going to wait for something like this. He went to another shop. He paid $200 plus taxes and labor for their mechanics to literally patch up one of his pipes they used a cheap sealant. And he shows up a week later and says the problem is still persisting. We advise him, once again, to have our mechanics take a look at it on our lift and replace the broken pipe. He still refuses and huffs away. 7. They may be biased. But take a look at the reviews of the shop you're going to. Generally, you want to pay attention to any pattern of customers having complaints with that specific shop. Put some work into it. Don't just skim through and look at how many stars or ratings there are. Actually read what customers are saying and sift through the reviews that you believe to be not legit. If it's a local shop in your town, ask some folks in the area who've taken their vehicles to that place. Usually a long-time resident that can attest for that shop is a sure sign that that shop is trustworthy, though not always. 8. Make sure the mechanics on duty are certified technicians. While having accreditation and education from a technical school isn't necessary to become a mechanic, you should do some homework on finding out if the mechanics on duty is aware of what they're doing. Some mechanics have different specialties. Some work on foreign cars only. Some work domestic. Some do only specific jobs such as brakes or mufflers. Some only work on non-commercial, i.e., personal vehicles. Other work commercial vans, semis, tow trucks, etc. Find out if the shop works only on specific type of bodies, such as sedans, pickups, or motorcycles. 9. Unless you know your vehicle is not roadworthy or safe to drive. Don't get and pay for jobs that you don't have to. Again, doing some research on your car specs won't kill you, and it also doesn't hurt to consult someone, a third party, who may be well educated on the matter, such as another mechanic from a different shop. You can think of it like getting a second opinion from another doctor. 10. Another scam that's done frequently by dishonest shops are quick estimate scams or immediate payment scams. Unless it's something extremely minor, good mechanics will never give you an estimate on your vehicle unless it's been properly examined, usually on a lift. If your car literally rolls up to the shop and a shady character who calls themselves a mechanic takes a quick look at your car and gives you a ridiculous price on the repair, right on the spot especially, if you ask them why it's necessary, and they don't go into detail and become defensive about it, you're being scammed hard. Like the patch-up job scam, they're trying to pressure you into getting a repair done on your car, even if it's not necessary. Sometimes they'll take it around the corner, not even on a lift, and around by pacing around the car. After 30 minutes or so, they'll tell you the job's finished and demand immediate payment. You know you're especially getting shafted when they ask for cash only. Even if they told you they accept credit, they may even press legal action if you refuse to pay or demand to speak with a manager. If one even exists. 11. Make sure you know what you're paying for. Vehicle parts vary by price, make, model, size, material, manufacturer, and market pricing. If the job being done on your car is for a big safety issue, such as the ball joints on your vehicle's steering system, you can expect to be paying a higher price than usual. Nobody wants to take their car to a mechanic, but sometimes you may not have a choice. Machines don't age like fine wine. Like anything else, they start to wither, crack, and break down, requiring maintenance. You want to make certain that a job is done right for the right price, rather than having a cheap job done for a low price when you know the parts being replaced or installed are rather expensive.